Across England and Britain today, there are a huge number of amazing castles and fortifications littered with some amazing stories. Some of them are untold and very dark. For example, at the Tower of London, there's a hidden underground dungeon named Little Ease, where it's alleged that Guy Fawkes was actually imprisoned and tortured. But there are many other castles that tell dark stories and interesting ones. For example, at Corfe Castle, there's a story of Lady Mary Banks, a brilliant woman who defended the castle from a siege during the English Civil War. She withstood and held out for a number of years. But we see castles as incredible stone fortifications, but there was actually a type of castle that came before that was actually very innovative, but very interesting in its design. Today we're going to look at the Motte and Bailey Castle, England's first castles. Welcome to Learn With Me, and as always, to support our channel, please click the red subscribe button down there. So when I worked as a teacher, one of the first things we would teach to the younger kids was Motte and Bailey Castles. They're a really interesting concept to get your head behind, because there was a need at the time following the Norman conquest to create a huge network of fortifications all across England. Following the Battle of Hastings, William the Conqueror needed to take control very quickly. The English probably weren't happy with a Frenchman ruling over them, as they preferred Harold Godwinson, the man who was slain on the battlefield of Hastings with the arrow allegedly piercing his eye. And William the Conqueror established control in a number of different ways. For example, he created the Domesday Book, a huge register of what people owned across the country. But one of the most profound ways he established control over the English people was by creating Motte and Bailey Castles. These were large wooden fortifications which were designed to hold a garrison of soldiers, and these castles would be the first ones seen on English soil. Previously there were fortified towns called burhs, and there were also hill forts used during the Iron Age, but before this there wasn't in a sense many castles. Motte and Baileys were made completely out of wood, and wood was easy to source from all over England. They were stationed far enough apart to make sure a garrison could go from one to the next rather easily and put down a rebellion in a local town if it occurred. They had a number of different methods of protection. Around the outside, the outer protection consisted of a ditch, which would be filled with horrific things such as dead animals, which would spread disease if someone walked through it. They also were protected by a palisade, a large wooden fence that surrounded the whole of the fortification. Often Motte and Bailey castles are confused with moats as well, and some did have watered moats, but these weren't sort of blue and very nice and tranquil, and you really wouldn't want to go swimming in them. They were usually filled with human waste to put people off going into them. The first thing you would come across as you tried to gain access to a Motte and Bailey castle was the gatehouse. Here soldiers would be stationed and would either let you in the castle or not, depending on who you were. But as you passed through the gatehouse, you'd come into the outer bailey. This was the sort of bustling life of the castle. In here you'd expect to see soldiers' barracks, many different places where artisans would work, where blacksmiths would work to create armour, and it was a really noisy, bustling environment. There would be a number of different gatehouses and stations throughout the Motte and Bailey, which allowed different parts of the castle to be isolated if they were attacked. So if the castle was attacked and the outer bailey was stormed, the soldiers and guards could then retreat into the inner bailey, through the different gatehouses and across the different bridges which could then be cut. But the inner bailey was where the castle's owner, or the landowner, or the rich baron would live. This inner bailey sat on top of a large hill, known as a motte, hence why it's called the Motte and Bailey, because you have the bailey outside and you have the motte being the big hill where the castle sits on top of. Main castle buildings as we know them are traditionally known as keeps, and the keep would sit on top of the motte. This would be protected further by another palisade fence, adding more security. Inside the keep there would be great living quarters, and it would be the most expensive part of the Motte and Bailey Castle. You would also expect to find guards on top of the keep, and also around the fences, and they could use the high ground to their advantage, and archers could take aim against the enemy. One of the most amazing Motte and Bailey sites in Britain is Acre Castle in Norfolk. Now it's quite an interesting name for a castle, Castle, Acre, Castle. And as you walk round you can see the different parts of the Motte and Bailey. You can see the inner bailey, how it's now protected by a stone wall, because Motte and Bailey castles, although wooden, did set the foundations for stone keep castles. And you can go into the inner bailey in the keep, and you can really see a circular ring where the keep was. And interestingly there's a beautiful bridge that takes you into the inner part of the castle. It's a really interesting site in Norfolk to go and see. And it's probably one of the easiest ways of understanding a Motte and Bailey castle that you can go and see. But there were some positives and also negatives of Motte and Bailey Castles. One big positive is they were actually made from wood. Wood at the time was very easy to source all across England, as the country was filled with forests and it was quite cheap to make as well. Another positive is they were very quick to build and could be made within a few months. As fortifications, they were also very successful and they did work, and at the time they inspired a great amount of fear and intimidation in the population, and they did exactly as William the Conqueror wanted. But obviously using wood to create a castle has a number of negatives. The first is obviously that it can catch fire quite quickly and easily, and also wood rots with the damp, and England isn't known for its beautiful sunny weather. Because of this, there would be people trying to maintain the castle at all times, to make sure it is safe. It was also vulnerable to some early forms of artillery and attack, and although the predecessor to stone keep castles, there were other materials that could have been used at the time to create a more stronger fortification. But interestingly, Motte and Bailey Castles were the first castles that did come to England. They did exactly what the king wanted them to do, provoke and inspire fear in the English people. The English people at the time were very angry that this new man, this new French ruler, had come over and taken the throne and was imposing all these taxes and rules onto people. And with Motte and Bailey Castles, the king could make sure that he could dispatch an army quickly from one place to another and put down any rebellion. I hope you found this video interesting. Over the next few weeks we're going to be visiting a number of different castles and bringing them to you. For example, if you're living in America, we'll bring a castle to you that you've probably never even heard of, and you can join us as we walk round. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting. If you do have a suggestion for any future videos, please comment down below and I will have a little look at them. As always, to support our channel, please make sure to subscribe and click the subscribe button. I think it's over there, or it's either over there. It doesn't matter. But most of all, have a lovely day. Thanks again for watching.